Let's head over to them to break down Royal's 5th straight win.
Thank you very much, QuickShot. We will question some of the picks, I'm sure, as we talk about RNG's perfect first round robin here. Jumping straight into champions like, though, Twitch, Kindred. This is a combo that is starting to look scarier and scarier as we see it played by RNG.
Yeah, and I think all this starts basically in the first rotation for RNG, which I think is very, very smart and a good understanding of the meta, which is one of the reasons they're 5-0 at the moment. So when they basically see their Azir ban, or they ban Azir themselves, they obviously see Flash Wolves have a Graves ban coming in, which is kind of odd, but you would normally only see that if you really want to trade like Kindred for Nidalee, which means you can actually first pick something else, and that's why they first pick the Echo. Instantly, RNG is saying, okay, 280 carry bans, we know you're going to play Lucian now. So if we pick Kindred, we have our Twitch, you know, the Chinese players like to play Twitch into the Lucian, so we know we have Twitch later, and Twitch Kindred as a combination is so, so scary.
It is.
And I loved this game because it's such a clear example of why so many variations of team fighting teams are being drafted and being played in the current meta. Because there's a very small margin for error if you're running something like the Flash Wolves decided to run, this 1-3-1, where they have to rely on Zed. And there was this point for them. They got the early lead, but they have to continue with that 1-3-1 style and use that 1-3-1 to pressure the side lanes, then take dragons after they already have map control. But their big mistake was collapsing on that second dragon without first setting it up with the tools that they had in the 1-3-1. Try and pressure first, and then they take this team fight and they get out team fight by the team fighting composition. It's just the ease of execution is there for the team fight.
Exactly. I think we have seen Maple play Zed into Ryze, but there's such a short window. What you have to do is you have to get a side lane 1v1 and then outplay the opponent AD or outplay the Ryze. But in this case, they didn't really consistently push for that. And once it comes to the Dragon team fight, it was just pretty much over.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Flash Wolves execute the 1-3-1 yesterday to Fishio. However, they did have the double teleport. This time with the Zed, they seemed a little bit more off kilter and not able to collapse on those dragons as early as they needed to, as Kobe mentioned, in order to set up for them proactively.
Yeah, I think a few things are going wrong for Flash Wolves when we look at the Zed pick and the way they played compared to yesterday. Yesterday, they actually had better scaling and also double teleport. So you could play a 1-3-1 basically just to farm, and actually didn't just scale up into late game. You didn't really have to rush anything. In this game, I think Flash Wolves are making a mistake, but I understand the mistake in taking the early dragon in the lane swap and saying we want to start snowballing the 5 dragons as fast as possible. The problem is it's not a consistent way of playing. They were really far ahead in tempo. They took the first tower much, much earlier. We're supposed to just swap at top lane, keep the tempo advantage going. You eventually get 1 or 2 towers above them, but they took the early dragon instead.
Exactly. The dragon stacking is supposed to be an advantage for this squad, but it's an advantage that you earn after you pressure the split push.
And I just want to say that Flash Wolves are probably not that familiar with this time of team fighting. We haven't seen them done 1-3-1 much this split. They used to play with more tank top, not much resources. And also, like, the dragon stacking is also pretty new to them.
Let's take a look at some of these fights. We'll look at the first dragon that went in favor of RNG. So the second dragon of the game.
And this is one where Looper definitely does deserve credit. Look at this here. Maple and Flash Wolves, they do have a gold advantage, but boom, gets Ryze prison, then Looper immediately takes him out of the fight. That's so much away from Flash Wolves.
There's just so many things though going wrong for Flash Wolves here. First of all, your mid laner is basically out of the fight at first, and you're trying now to steal the dragon after. And there's a rule to follow. Never try and steal a dragon and also fight at the same time, because it never works for you. You end up just rushing into it. You have no proper positioning. But again, in the first place, Flash Wolves should never have been here.
Exactly.
Because you're supposed to right now play 1-3-1 with 3 lanes pushing at the same time. So once you have the RNG team push all the way back to the tier 2 towers, you can just walk to dragon freely and they can't even follow.
I want to push this into our second replay just because we only have so much time. And this is, you know, a very sweet illustration of being outscaled and not able to team fight because of the early mistakes, because of not winning those early fights and getting that lead. If Flash Wolves get stuck between a rock and a hard place, they can't win the fight they need that they need around this last dragon. So as we pull that up, we'll see it play out.
This is basically where you can't say anything about the teams. You can just look at the team compositions and say RNG's composition here is so much better at team fighting. And great start again, obviously from Lupa on this puppy, and understanding his role as a tank when someone tries to steal his dragon.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He gets a great charge. This one taking him out of the Lamb's Respite, into the wall, gets the stun. Obviously, that first replay of the first team fight, the RNG one when they were down gold to get that first dragon, was the key one to get them the leverage to get into this game. But after that, you can see Flash Wolves are pretty desperate. At that point, they know that they've lost control when they lose their edge.
I want to give the closing point to Clement here because we heard Spawn talk about and Trevor talk about the fact that Flash Wolves should hold their head high after this. You know, it isn't about, oh, well, we've lost. And one, you've lost to the undefeated team, the team in first. Two, you have shown that you can play 1-3-1 in the early game correctly. It's just about fixing those tiny mistakes and cleaning it up a little bit.
Exactly, and when we saw the Flash Wolves do this, like, they had good leads early game. Their lane swap was better. They were faster in it, but they gave up a little bit of tempo here and there, and I think it's just the unfamiliarity with the styles that they're playing here. Like, that trap might have worked domestically. When they play fast-paced, back at LMS, it works most of the time, but they really haven't been able to get it going right now.
All right, well, with that, it's time for an inside look at RNG's win to open the day. We're going to send it down to Shox in the interview lounge.
Very much, Dash. I am happy to be joined here by MLXG, the jungler for RNG after they went undefeated in the first stage of the group stage. In this game versus the Flash Wolves, you guys showed a lot of fights. MLXG, it didn't start off perfect for you guys, but the minute the team fight started, you had it. How confident were you in your composition that you would be able to come back in that game?
这场比赛刚开始的时候呢，你们有些劣势，但是你们的阵容是不是特别好？然后从什么时候开始，你们能确定你们在团战中能打赢？
在小龙团的时候，因为我们是打团这种嘛，然后他们有节是要去4-1分的，但是他们选择来跟我们打团，我觉得他们这个决定非常错误，所以说我们能赢下来团战。
So MLXG thinks that they have a team fight composition, while for Flash Wolves, they are split push. Their Zed shouldn't fight, and they made a horrible decision fighting that dragon.
They did, and that's what eventually snowballed everything for you guys. Now, MLXG, the Flash Wolves put up a good fight. You guys have beat every single team in the region so far. Who do you think might be the strongest team out of the ones you've beaten?
现在你们已经5-0了，在第一轮里面，然后你们战胜了所有对手。那你觉得这5支对手里面哪支队最厉害？
我觉得这届 MSI 每个队伍都非常强，都需要非常认真的去对待。
You think all teams coming to MSI are super strong and they are spending equally amount of energy into facing each enemy?
You guys are being very humble. Your teammate Mata as well yesterday didn't want to say too much about the expectations. However, going undefeated in the first stage of the group stage, did that exceed or match your expectations that you had before coming into MSI?
你的队友 Mata 昨天在采访时非常谦虚，他说他还是对这个比赛没有特别多的期待值最后的结果。那你觉得你们这个比赛你们该有什么样的期望？
先小组出线，然后尽力打好接下来的所有比赛。
So first off, they will have to make sure they make out of groups, and then they will try their best on every other games.
All right, also very humble. Final question, one of our analysts said all the teams have come from the world to China and they are having to play like the LPL and having to play like the Chinese teams and focus on team fighting and being very aggressive. Does that mean that you guys have a big advantage going into the rest of the tournament? Because they all have to play your game.
有一个评论嘉宾说到，说所有来到上海比赛的队伍都打得非常像 LPL 联赛一样，打得非常有侵略性，很多的团战。你觉得他们适应了这种打法的话，是不是对你们有一个额外的优势？因为你们就是支 LPL 的战队。
其实风格也并不是说跟 LPL 那么相像，主要是因为我觉得他们是在中国服务器训练嘛，所以说可能风格就有点偏 LPL 化了。
He thinks they're not that close to the LPL style yet, but he thinks since they play a lot of LOL solo, China solo queue, so they might somehow adapt it to Chinese play style.
All right, we will see what happens. Well, congratulations, MLXG. RNG undefeated in the first stage of the group stage. And who isn't undefeated? That is the world champion SKT 0-2 yesterday. And they are going up against North America's CLG after the break. A great matchup. Don't miss it. We will be right back.
It's RNG undefeated at 4-0. Flash Wolves 3-1. Whoever wins this game will hold on to first position. Lupa survives for a few seconds longer. Flash from NL. Flash Wolves are looking for another one. Lupa is still alive. Dragon secured by Royal. The box is down, splitting up the river. MMD's jump forward. Lamb's respite means nobody will die yet until Maple is knocked away. Here comes Lupa for the first time this game. Finds no stun, but the verdict is Flash Wolves, you will be defeated.